Well, I'm told that we do have Greta with us, Greta Berlin. She's joining us from Paris, France. Greta, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you. Greta, tell me, we had Derek Graham with us in the last 30 minutes or so. And tell me, how did you get involved with this movement?
Well, I was actually one of the original organizers. There were 5 of us altogether, 4 women and a man. And about 2.5 years ago, we were sitting around trying to figure out how we could get into Gaza. Many of us had been kicked out of the West Bank, or we'd been deported by the Israelis, or we had been jailed by the Israelis. So we thought, well, maybe it would be a better idea for us to try to break the siege of Gaza. And a man from Australia said, you know, I had this idea that maybe we should sail a boat from New York to Gaza. Well, of course, that was simply out of the question, and we took his idea and we started organizing, and the rest is pretty much history.
Okay. So you did not sail from New York, but you sailed from Cyprus.
That's correct. We sailed from Cyprus in August 22nd.
Yeah.
And it took a long 2 years to get there. There was a lot of stories along the way. And finally, we were able to buy 2 small fishing boats, and 44 of us left Cyprus in August, on August 22nd, and we got to Gaza on the late afternoon of August 23rd.
Okay. Now, you were told that the Israelis were going to actually block your way in going in, and they were going to sink the boat and blow it up, blow it out of the water, whatever. Did you take those threats serious?
Yes, of course. We take all Israeli threats seriously because they often carry through. They certainly have done a lot of threats towards the Palestinians, and they've managed to kill them and maim them and take away their property. So, of course, we took it very seriously. We had a lot of threats before we left on the first time. Because I was running the media out of Cyprus, I would often get phone calls telling me that there was a bomb on board the boat, that did I know how to swim, that we would never make it because they were going to blow the boats up. So not only were we uncertain when we left Cyprus for Gaza, we weren't really sure whether we were going to make it in one piece.
Okay. So, I mean, did you write up your will and kiss your friends goodbye that you weren't coming back?
Actually, we all did that. We all wrote up our wills. I notified my children, who were most distressed that I was going. They were proud of me, but they weren't really happy about the idea that they might lose their mom. And I think out of the 44 of us, probably most of us did write wills. We did say goodbye to our friends. We didn't have any idea of what was going to happen. So we wanted to be cautious just in case something did happen to us. We were very fortunate that the Israelis seemed to have come to their senses and pretty much they were all bark and no bite.
Okay. So you got to Gaza. Now tell me the situation in Gaza when you got there. I know we all seen the pictures where thousands of people lined up the Gaza shore to receive those 2 boats that they have been hearing about for a long time. But when you got there, I mean, those smiling faces, there was story probably behind every smiling face that was not a happy story. Tell me about the situation in Gaza when you got there.
Well, I think for me personally, it was one of the most ecstatic experiences I have ever seen. For those of us who had been the organizers for the 2 years before we got there, so many things had happened. One of the organizers had committed suicide. We had lost boats. We didn't quite know whether we were going to have boats until the very end. We spent 32 hours on the sea. Many of us were seasick. And when we saw the shoreline of Gaza and we realized that we were actually going to make it to Gaza, I think many of us couldn't believe it. Ironically, I think we had spent so much time in the 3 weeks before we left preparing for what would happen if the Israelis boarded us, if they hauled us away, if they arrested us, none of us really thought that we were actually going to make it to Gaza. And to see 40,000 people lined up there to greet us is an experience that I'll never forget, never for the rest of my life. It was the most amazing experience, one of the kinds of experiences that you have maybe once or twice in your life, and they're not ever repeatable.
So tell me about Gaza. When you got to Gaza, how things were in Gaza. Was it as horrible as we hear?
Actually, it's worse than
Excuse me, I'm under the weather.
I think one of the things that we all saw was the amazing fortitude of the people of Gaza. I honestly don't think that one single American would be able to tolerate what the people of Gaza tolerate. Their sewage is on the ground because the Israelis have blown up the power plant. The sewage runs into the sea. The sea is polluted. The Israelis shoot at the fishermen if the fishermen go out further than 6 miles. They're slowly starving to death. The only way, really, that many of them have any kind of food is through the tunnels. There's about 700 tunnels that go from the south part of Gaza into Egypt. They're crowded. I mean, it's hard to imagine, but there's 1.5 million people in Gaza. There's 1.5 million people on the entire island of Cyprus. If you take 1.5 million people and you put them in a 35-mile by 8-mile radius and pile them all into that radius, that's what Gaza is like. They are surrounded by 3 sides by 40-foot walls. The only opening that they have actually is the opening to the sea. They were the most wonderful, wonderful people. And they are remarkable because they have nothing in their hospitals. They have nothing in their schools. The children don't have pencils. They don't have crayons. The hospitals don't have simple antibiotics, aspirin even. They don't have that kind of medication.
Greta, let me ask you this. I mean, Rachel, she had pointed out that the media in the United States did not really cover this voyage, which, a lot of people could have lost their lives, but they did not even bother to do this. Why, even though there were Americans on those boats, why do you think the media did not cover that?
I think that the media is not particularly interested in stories about the Palestinians. I'll give you a very quick example. 3 internationals and 15 Palestinians were just hijacked by the Israeli Navy 2 days ago. I mean, they were literally kidnapped off the waters of Gaza. Now, one of those people, one of the internationals, is an American. She's from the Bay Area in California. To get the American press to cover this story has been almost impossible, and that includes Democracy Now! But the Italian International and the British International, they have had plenty of press about the fact that they have been thrown into jail by the Israelis, and they have been literally kidnapped off the waters of Gaza. And the American press goes on and on about the Somalians and how they are committing piracy at sea, but I have to tell you that Israel's committing the same kind of piracy, only they're actually kidnapping people. And although they let the 15 Palestinians go, they confiscated their boats. And that is the Palestinian fishermen's way of making a living. And nobody in the United States, very, very few people in the United States are covering that story.
Now, you are also part of a group called Women in Black. What is that group? What is it? What is Women in Black?
Women in Black was a group that was originally started in Israel in 1988 against the occupation. There's about 350 chapters now of Women in Black around the world. And the chapters can pretty much decide what human rights issue they want to work with. The one that I belong to in Los Angeles is a Women in Black group that believes in essentially a one-state solution, the right of return, and the fact that there will be no peace in the Middle East until the Palestinians are granted their human rights and their civil rights.